Why do we lose tricks? What is it with our bodies that makes it so we can't do something we were just able to do last week? Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, a channel about skateboarding where I talk about skateboarding in all of its forms and discuss different topics in the skateboarding world. Today I'm answering your questions. I've got a few interesting ones, like this first one from Mr. Gallo. Says, what are your favorite skateboard movies? Lords of the Dogtown is what got me into skateboarding. Love your content, keep it up. I didn't enjoy that one that much. And the other one that I've talked about before is Street Dreams. I reviewed that right here. I was planning on doing a new series where I would review all of these, but I made a second one about a show, and it got copyright striked like immediately. It's not against the law to review a movie or a TV show, but on YouTube, whatever, different story. So I unfortunately had to cancel my plans to do that. But one that I would have done is Gleaming the Cube. That was my favorite. Probably still is. Like, Street Dreams is pretty good, but it's not, it's nothing that special. Gleaming the Cube, for me, it came out a long time ago. It's from like the 80s, I think. But I saw it around 2002, 3, something like that. Probably when I first got cable, I was able to find it. Or maybe I got it from Netflix, where you had to like send it out, or they would like send it to you in the mail. That might have been it. I don't remember how I got my hands on it, but it was a really good movie. I can't tell you what the movie is about because I don't remember. I didn't care about that. That was just background noise. But there was a lot of skating in it. Like, Tony Hawk is in it. And he's skating in, pools and vert and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of skating where Christian Slater is going around and doing board slides and stuff. And it's pretty good because, like, it was skateboarding, and I was very starved for skateboarding to watch at that time. I could read a Transworld, but to actually see skateboarding in motion was very uncommon for me. I didn't know a lot of people who skated, and I wasn't allowed to hang out with the kids at school who did. So I would very rarely see what skateboarding looked like in motion. So that was a way for me to do that. There's a clip where Rodney Mullen is like the stunt double, and he does all this freestyle stuff. It's crazy because Christian Slater is skating through this warehouse, I guess, and he's doing board slides and he's riding on stuff, and then suddenly his board is a freestyle board, and he just does all this stuff. I was blown away by that. Loved it. Of course I did. But that was so cool. And something else that comes to mind is the boards at the end. They get like these special boards. Again, I can't remember the plot, but they get these special boards, and they have like the steel flooring, where it's like it's got the pattern of shapes on it for like grip, but they use like metallic grip instead of a grip tape, which has no purpose, and it wouldn't be better at all. But the costume designer maybe thought it looked cooler. And so at the end of the movie, they've all got these like steel gripped boards, which was pretty cool, just to look at. I can't imagine trying to skate on it. But yeah, that one is my favorite just because it meant a lot to me at the time to finally see some skateboarding. The other thing I had, early 2000s, because I was trying to learn how to do a 50-50 grind, I made this terrible, it was like a 2x4 and this really soft angle iron, but it wasn't, that's going too far. It was like halfway between actual coping and like tinfoil, super thin, and I like nailed it down onto this 2x4, and I was just trying to ollie on it, and I would just sink in and then step off. So I was pretty early in skateboarding. There was this TV show about skateboarding. I don't remember what channel it was on or anything about it, but I had that, and it was like a high school drama type show, but then there'd be scenes of skateboarding in it. Like, that was all I had for a long time before I learned how to use BitTorrent. All right. The next question is from Joshua, who says, should they change the one specific rule where you pop your trick if your opponent popped his to only apply to tricks that don't flip? Because tricks like fakie and nollie trays don't pop off the ground. I also feel like they'd be more focused on enforcing the rule if they changed it to only apply to non-flip tricks. Okay, so you're talking about the battle at the barracks, which is its own thing. If you want to make any of your own stipulations for your own games of skate that you play with your friends at the skate park, you're allowed to do that. No one is in control of skateboarding, even Eric Costin and Steve Barra. They're not, whatever. They can make a rule for an event that they hold at their place, but you can make anything that you want. You can do like a foot plant only a type of game where everything has to be a boneless or a fast plant or something like that. You could do it if you want. If you want to make a rule where you have to pop all of your pop shoves, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to tell people that that's how you want to do it up front. But I get why they don't enforce it that much, because a pop shove it and a non-popped shove it are all pretty simple. You know, like, I don't think it matters how long it takes me to skate again, you know, like if I'm hurt or if it was just a really snowy winter and I didn't get a chance or anything like that. And I feel like I can do every shove it in every stance pretty much first try, you know, and so like to pop it or not is just not that big of a deal. So I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but only if it's obvious, because you can do a normal back shove that doesn't, like, barely even leaves the ground. Like the front wheels kind of drag, and it's super quick. You know, I do that all the time to just turn the board around or whatever. And if someone popped a huge shove it and then you do one of those, that kind of sucks. But I don't think it's that big of a deal, personally. Okay. All right, so the last question is from Elissa Steezer, which probably would have picked this question no matter what it was with that name. It's, what really caused you to lose your tricks if you don't skate very often? So how is it that you can spend months and years perfecting a trick, yet after you stop skating for an insert amount of time here, you almost completely turn into a poser? Is it muscle memory, confidence in your timing that you gradually lose, or does your body and mind actually secretly betray you just because it's looking out for themselves by slowly wiping your trick bag hard drive without you realizing it, because it knows learning more complicated tricks might actually cause you further injuries in the future? I don't think it's that last one. I don't think your body is trying to protect itself by sabotaging your skateboarding skills. I actually did a little bit of research on this, mostly with people who can play piano and stuff like that, because it's a very sophisticated, complicated type of motion. So I've got a couple of quotes for you here. First one of the earliest and most notable studies regarding the retention of motor skills was by Hill, Rahal, and Thorndike, who showed savings in relearning typing skills after a 25-year period with no practice. Findings related to the retention of learned motor skills have been continuously replicated in studies, suggesting that through subsequent practice, motor learning is stored in the brain as memory. This is why performing skills such as riding a bike or driving a car are executed and subconsciously or effortlessly and subconsciously executed, even if someone had not performed these skills in a long period of time. Okay. So the first part there was like someone who had learned how to type, took a 25-year break, was compared to someone new who was trying to learn how to type, because it says that the time was saved. So I imagine that it was compared to somebody else, and they were able to learn quicker because it's in there somewhere. It just takes some time to bring it back. So if you learned how to do a kickflip and 360 flips and heel flips back in high school, and now it's been 10, 15 years and you want to skate again, it'll be a lot easier for you to learn it than for someone who's never skated before your age to do it. So it is still in there somewhere. But I've got a couple more quotes for you I wanted to get through. However, most theories assume that there is a general redistribution of information across the brain from encoding to consolidation. Hebb's rule states that synaptic connectivity changes as a function of repetitive firing. Okay, so I used to take a speech therapy class because I've always had some problems with my speech. And the way that they described this that he was talking about is picture a kickflip. You're trying to learn it for the very first time. You have never tried it before. Every possible option, from the way that you land it, the way you flip it too much, the way you don't flip it enough, the way that you step off of it, but it flips right. These are all like dirt roads in your brain. They're different pathways, and they're all not used because you've never tried this before. When you finally learn the right way to kickflip, and you imagine this as this thin little dirt road, if you land it and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, that pathway is strengthened, and it eventually becomes like a highway to a point where that becomes the simplest way to do it. So if you try the trick and you're not thinking about it and you just kind of casually try a kickflip, your brain is going to use the big obvious highway instead of trying to use these dirt roads, right? So the more often you do a trick, the easier it is, or anything, the easier it is to redo it later because it's in your brain that that's the obvious way to go. So for me with the speech stuff, it was like, find a way that you can speak perfectly. So if it's by yourself, if you have to read to your dog or something like that, and you just do it and you do it and you do it and you do it and you do it, you are strengthening all the pathways for perfect speech. And next time you are on stage or you're in a high pressure environment or something like that, your brain is more likely to pick to one of those more used paths. So that's kind of an important part of it. And I've got one more science-y quote for you. When comparing professional musicians to a control group in complex bimanual movements, professionals are found to use an extensive motor connection much less than those non-professionals. This is because professionals rely on a motor system that has increased efficiency, and therefore those less trained have a network that is more strongly activated. It is implied that the untrained pianists have to invest more neuronal activity to have the same level of performance that is achieved by professionals. This again is said to be a consequence of many years of training and experience that helps form a fine motor memory skill of musical performance. So again, that's kind of saying the same thing. The more that they do it, the more refined those pathways are, and it takes less effort to do something perfectly because it's a giant highway instead of a dirt road, again, to go back to that. So the more you do that stuff, the easier it is to keep doing it. But you lose things because the less you do something, if you haven't skated in a long time, you haven't typed in 25 years, you haven't played the piano, those pathways will start to shrink. And they're still probably going to be more refined than the bad ones, than the ones where you miss or you bail the kickflip or something like that. They're still more refined, and that they'll be able to regain their significance or their the bigness, the highway sized pathway more quickly. So you do lose tricks if you don't do them as much, but it's a lot easier to relearn them than it is to learn them in the first place. So that should be some kind of comfort. It's not your body trying to protect itself by making you bad at skateboarding, although that is a fun way to think about it. Something else that came to mind is just getting in your head too much, which happens to me with everything. But I joined a hatchet throwing league, and so it's like a target, and there's the ring that's 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, 6 points for the bullseye. And you just walk up to it, you throw the hatchet, and you try to get some points. And I got to a point where I was pretty good, but I had to do things very specifically. So I had my left foot on the front line, my back foot back. I didn't step. I just kind of shifted my weight slightly forward and threw it a little bit harder than would just be like a casual throw. So I'm throwing it at like 60%, something like that. And if I did that perfectly, I would do pretty well. I wouldn't always get a bullseye, but it would at least stick 95% of the time. But the more pressure I'm under, the more I'm thinking about it and thinking, okay, so throw it a little bit harder, but then what's harder? Because if I've been throwing it right this whole time and I'm thinking about throwing it harder, maybe I throw it too hard and it spins a little bit too much, and now it doesn't hit on the blade. And you can think yourself out of it too much. The way I picture it is like, with the pathways in your brain, if you're looking at the GPS and you think, hey, maybe this way is better, even though it's not the way that you've practiced, it would be easy to end up talking yourself into doing it wrong. So anyway, don't feel too bad if you lose your tricks, because it's going to happen if you take a big break from skateboarding, but you can get them back with not as much effort. If it took you 3 months to learn how to kickflip, it's not going to take you 3 months to relearn it. Those pathways in your brain are still there. You just need to drive them some more and get them back into good shape. So that's it. I enjoyed actually doing some science research and learning things for this one. I hope that was helpful. If you've got any questions of your own, go to radratvideo.com. You could submit them there right on the homepage. You can buy my classic shirts there. There's a link in the description for my new stuff. You can also support the channel by joining Patreon or by just subscribing, hit the like button, share it with your friends, that kind of stuff. That's it for this time. I will see you next time. Thanks for hanging out.